I don't have my, wait a minute. Where am I here? Stop video, mute mic, open mic? No, I got mic. I'm not hearing anybody.
I can hear you.
Oh, I go in.
I can hear you, Stan.
Eli?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you, fine. And the chief.
Hello there.
Hello.
And now we have 4.
Tom Weathers. Hi, Tom.
Now we have 5. Why does it seem it's been 6 months since we've had a meeting?
Yeah. This kind of feels to me like diving. You put on your face mask, you make sure your oxygen's working, you got your weights, you go down, there's a jellyfish, a shark. You know, it's strange.
That's when I come right back up. As soon as you see the shark, it's over.
I've had enough. Goodbye.
That's it. That actually would keep me from actually doing the dive to start with, though, to be honest. I was out in Hawaii, not too far, in Oahu, not too far off the coast. One of the boats to take you out and let you fish for the little tiny blackfish in the ocean and swim from the boat over to a platform and lay out and get some sun. And at the time, my girlfriend swam over to the platform about, I don't know, 30 yards away. And I thought to myself, why did she do that? I don't want to go over there, and I don't want to have to be looking down the whole time as I'm swimming, trying to, see if it's coming, and I'm not going to be able to do anything about it if it is anyway. So I ended up, trying to overcome my fear, jumped in the water, swam over, and sat there, but I worried about the trip back to the boat. And then we ended up, we were there for a wedding in Maui, so we ended up leaving, taking a flight over to Maui. And got in the water, but just mainly maybe about to waist height at the most. Kind of rocky area. It wasn't really the beach area that I would have preferred to have been in the water if I was going to do it. But on the flight back to Oahu, read some articles about tiger sharks and all the tiger shark attacks that were happening with tourists that weren't widely known on Oahu and on Maui. And I thought, wow, that's it. I won't be getting in the water anymore. Those days are over.
Yep.
They can bite.
They do bite, yes.
Yeah. Hi, Larry.
No, they're very friendly.
Up to a point.
Actually, we on the Big Island, we used to go into the lava tubes and what have you, looking for the white-tip reef sharks that like to sleep in lava tubes.
Meddling with a sleeping shark just doesn't sound.
Yes, right. I hope they remain asleep.
Yeah, please.
We were on a whale watching Zodiac in Hawaii, and there were some whales, and then one whale went underneath our Zodiac, and it was an adult whale. It was so huge, and my heart just skipped beats as it went underneath our Zodiac. It didn't come up, but I thought it could.
Oh, sure.
And it would have been very scary. Hi, Dave.
Good tail slap, anything, huh? Yeah. Let's see. I think he had a chat there. Let's see what he said.
Yeah, it said you can't use audio or
Turn
video.
on the video or audio. Let's see if I can do anything about that. And Nadine says the same thing. She can't dial in and turn on either.
Hi, Nadine.
And we have somebody.
Hey, Jack.
There's Jack Devlin.
Yes.
Hi, Jack.
Greetings, all.
Nice to see you.
Oh,
Likewise.
Okay. I think everyone's here. Nadine, you're there by audio?
They're
Okay,
gonna,
Dave's going to try to get back in by video. So if Nadine joins us, and I think Nadine is there by audio, is that correct, Nadine?
Case.
I don't think so.
Let's give it another minute or two.
Yeah,
Hi, Dave.
Okay, we got Dave.
let's see. Looks like
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
got them both. I think I got them both.
Nadine.
Oh, great. Thank you for unmuting me.
Okay.
I found you under the attendees as opposed to a panelist.
Weird.
Not sure how that happened, but glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, Nadine, can you hear us?
I've made that mistake in the past. And what happens is, if you go to the agenda and you click on that link, it'll bring you in as an audience member, not a commissioner, and you don't have video. But if you go to the email that we receive and click that link, it'll connect you as a commissioner and then you have video. So I learned that lesson the hard way.
Got it.
Thanks, Tom. Interestingly, I didn't click on either one. It was an appointment on my calendar, so I will figure this out.
Huh.
But we can keep going.
Okay, Nadine, are you comfortable in this mode?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to start the meeting, and we've got everybody, so that's great. Maybe one more person joining us, but I don't know that for a fact. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to do a roll call. I'm here, Steve Misrach, Larry Luckham,
I'm here.
Larry's here, Tom,
Present.
Tom's here, Nadine,
Here.
Nadine's here, Eli,
Here.
Dave,
I am here.
Stan.
I am here.
Very good. And we have a guest, Jack Devlin. So Jack, thank you very much for joining us. And Chief White, you're here.
I am.
And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So that's very important. Thank you. We'll have open time for public expression. Jack, since you're a special guest, I'm going to ask you to speak when we recognize you a little bit later in the meeting. You okay with that?
I had myself on mute, but yes, that'll be fine.
Very good. So we're going to hear from you soon. First of all, Eli, thank you very much for doing the minutes. As usual, they were very concise, very to the point, and very thorough. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
Well, I have, and I'll move to approve.
Okay, are there any additions or corrections? Stan is going to be the second, but any problems, any issues, anything to add or subtract? Okay, let's go with the minutes as written. Eli, thank you very, very much. And all those in favor of the minutes as written,
Aye.
please say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? All those
Aye.
opposed? No, no one opposed. Eli, thank you. Eli, are you comfortable doing that again today?
Yes, yes, I am. Thank you.
And if at some point you find it onerous or a problem, let me know. Let me know, and we'll share it. We'll all do it. But thank you for doing it. You do a super job. Okay, the next topic is the Fire Foundation. And I want to give an update on the winter crabless feed fundraising effort, which to date has raised $21,566. That total will be matched by Jeff Kramer, as we've talked about in the past. So I think it's been a very successful fundraising effort, even though we were not able to have the crab feed this year. Is that my house or is that someone on the call? I think it's my house, so just ignore it. So that's been really great. I want to segue into the fact that we're going to honor two people today who are associated with the Fire Foundation. And I've asked Jack Devlin and Len Thompson to join us. Len was unsure if he could join, so I don't, hi Nadine, we can see you fine, thank you. I don't think Len could join us because he had other pressing issues, but he may join us at some point. But we're going to honor both Jack Devlin and Len Thompson, and I want to talk about them. But I want to point out that previously, the Fire Foundation, which is made up of a small number of individuals, has recognized two other people in the Fire Foundation, namely Pat Kendall, who's one of the founding members, along with Jack and along with Len. And Pat Kendall was recognized in December of 2019 by Chief Gray at the Station 57 ceremony, the opening ceremony. And Pat got an award not only for her work in the Fire Foundation, but on her work with starting the paramedic program in about 1979, 1980 with the fire department. So she's an important person, friend of the fire department, and Chief Gray recognized her with a certificate at that station opening. And you remember that. So that was quite important. So one of the Fire Foundation members has been recognized previously. Another, Jeff Kramer, is also one of the founding members of the Fire Foundation, a huge supporter of the foundation and the fire department and the Marin History Museum and such. Jeff was recognized as Citizen of the Year in 2019. And some of us went to that ceremony at the city chambers. And so Jeff has been previously recognized. Now, there are two people that have not been previously recognized. And at one of our meetings a few months ago, I don't know if it was Larry or Stan, but someone suggested that we recognize some principal people in the Fire Foundation. And those are two people. One is the person who really came up with the idea of the Fire Foundation. That's Len Thompson. Len, a retired firefighter from LA City, and a former fire commissioner, was really fundamental in starting the Fire Foundation. He had an idea, he had a template based on what LA had done. With Tom's help, we were able to turn it into a bona fide 5013C, and that got it off the ground. So we're going to recognize Len Thompson today for his contributions in creating the Fire Foundation through the Fire Commission. I sort of think of the Fire Foundation as a fraternal twin to the Fire Commission. I don't know if that's totally correct, but that's how I think about it in my mind. And I swear, I often get confused as to what the Fire Commission is doing and what the Fire Foundation is doing and how they interact. And sometimes in my mind, they're fraternal twins. So I just throw that out as an analogy. So we're going to recognize Len today. But in addition, we're going to recognize the person who is the workhorse of the Fire Foundation, and that is Jack Devlin. Jack is a citizen of San Rafael and has been worked at AAA and Fireman's Fund. Jack's wife was on the Fire Commission. You may remember, it was many years ago when Chief Marcucci was chief. And Jack is just the workhorse of the Fire Foundation. He's our driving heart and soul. And Jack, I want to thank you for the work you've done. You have made the Fire Foundation as effective and consistently amazing as it is. And I want to thank you on behalf of the Fire Commission. All of us think you're doing a wonderful job, and we want to thank you. And Chief White has a certificate for you.
I do. And I'd like to first thank you as well on behalf of the men and women of the San Rafael Fire Department and the community at large. Your efforts are truly phenomenal, and they've done nothing but more and more good for the organization. And it couldn't come at a better time when we're faced with fiscal constraints and we have, some things that challenge morale and opportunities are very seldom and few and far between sometimes. But because the Fire Foundation and the Fire Commission are supportive of the efforts of the San Rafael Fire Department and its membership, we're able to accomplish more than normally we'd be able to accomplish. And so I really want to say thank you. We certainly appreciate your tireless efforts. Obviously, it's a labor of love. You're doing this work and you're continuing to do this work on behalf of others. And so we're eternally grateful to you. I'm going to put the certificate up to, I'm going to read it to you first and then show it so you can see what, or hear what it has to say. But it's in recognition of Jack Devlin, who as a member of the San Rafael Fire Foundation has made truly commendable contributions to the San Rafael Fire Department, and is hereby recognized for excellent service to the community by the San Rafael Fire Commission and San Rafael Fire Department on Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. We actually have wrote Wednesday, January 11th. I apologize for that error. We'll work to get it corrected, but it's signed by both myself and Dr. Stephen Mizrock. And so, again, I'm hoping you can see this without
It's lovely. It's a beauty, suitable for framing for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This would be a great certificate. It kind of shows the history of the organization. It has a nostalgic kind of a vintage look to it. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
Looks perfect. Looks perfect. And to Steve's earlier remarks, I think we're more like separated at birth. The Fire Foundation is legally not at all a part of the city. We are a completely separate institution, but we were formed thanks partly to the help of Tom Weathers with a single mission, which is to support the San Rafael Fire Department. And everything we've done so far has been with that goal in mind, and we continue to pursue those goals, working with Chief White to define what the needs of the department are. In 2020, we didn't contribute at the scale that we have in some previous years, but I think Chief White's point about morale is a good one, because we offered our firefighters an opportunity to get some help with their Class A uniform acquisitions, and I'm happy to say we had 26 members of the San Rafael Fire Department apply for those grants, and we were able to honor all of them, spending a total of a little over $8,000. So we've agreed, at least in principle, and I think we'll take this up at our own board meeting later this week, just to finalize it, to renew that offer for another year at least going forward. So we'll continue that program into the future, and we've accumulated, as Steve mentioned, some more cash in our treasury, which we hope to work with Chief White to distribute effectively in some way to help again make the fire department stronger. So, but I'm very grateful for all of your support and for this honor. It came as a surprise when Steve called me. I was gratified, and I feel humble. Being a citizen isn't always something you put your feet up doing. At least you shouldn't. In years past, I've been president of our neighborhood association. I did that for about 8 years, and I spent 9 years on a commission that doesn't exist anymore in the city, the Budget Oversight Committee, where we helped the city in those days get a better handle on their own finances, and worked with a group of really sharp people during that period of time. And I was gratified to be chair of that organization for the last 4 years, and then I sat with Larry on another commission to try to help round up funds and public support for the critical facilities programs. And it's been wonderful to see those programs and projects come to fruition. One of the things we identified back in the 1990s on the Budget Oversight Committee is, in reviewing the city's financial situation, we identified $150 million worth of unfunded capital needs for the city, and we've taken a big bite out of that already, and it's taken a while, but it's all worked very well, and I'm just really thrilled to have been part of it in some way.
Jack, thank you so much. Does anyone else have a comment or anything to say? I appreciate the comments people have typed in. That's very helpful. Tom?
Unmute. Still getting the hang of this Zoom stuff. Jack, good to see you. Just wanted to say, when we were setting this whole thing up, it was great to work with you. It was great to work with the initial board. And I'm so happy and I'm so proud that you've gotten this off the ground and made it into a sustainable body. So you should be very proud of yourself. You've done good here, and it's been my privilege to work with you in getting that going.
Thanks for the kind words, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. I think for many years, the Fire Commission talked about ways to raise funds to help the department, but until we had this official vehicle, the Fire Foundation, it never came to fruition. So it did come to fruition. Thanks for everyone who thought about it, agreed to it, worked on it. And Jack, thank you for doing so much work. You well deserved. Jack, you're welcome to stay with us for the whole meeting, but thank you very much for your service.
I will. I'll be dropping off, but thank you all very much. Appreciate the thoughts.
Thank you again.
All right. Talk soon.
There, Jack.
I'll just quote Benjamin Franklin, who started the volunteer firefighters in Philadelphia. The most noblest question is, what good may I do? And you're doing a lot of good with the Fire Foundation. Thank you very much.
Hey, if you look at our donations page, you'll find another Benjamin Franklin quote.
Great. Great
All
work.
right. Bye-bye.
Okay, I don't have a report from the historic subcommittee. I did secure some old artifacts, but I'll talk about those next month. Want to have something to talk about next month, so I'll bring that up next month. We'll go through the commission reports. I'm done. Larry, is there anything you'd like to bring up today?
Hope I'm not one of the old artifacts. I mean, I am an old artifact, but I'm hoping you're not going to talk about me. I have a couple of things. Well, sort of in keeping with my investigation of fire technology to bring to the department, I came across this interesting thing, a firefighting system out of Sweden that I'm going to send on to the chief. Actually, I'll send a link to the chief and all the commission members. It's kind of interesting. It's a different approach to firefighting, kind of a firefighting lightweight. The second thing I wanted to mention, and I've been talking to the chief this past week, as all of you know, over a good many years in my Photo 50 capacity, I accumulated a rather substantial collection of fire photos and other material that has gotten posted on the Photo 50 website. Some of it is fires in San Rafael. Some of it is ended up being training programs. Once I went into fire investigation, two notable ones. One is an advanced explosives class that I was on the staff of after the first year down in Tulare. And the second one was a prescribed fire training program that I used to go to for a couple of weeks every year up in the Shasta Trinity area. In any case, there's a lot of material, and all of that stuff is now housed on my personal web servers. But I realized a while back that I needed to get it into the hands of the department so that it's readily available when members of the department need it. I was contacted by Vegetation Management, for example, this week, wanting some fire photos for their own website. So I am in the process of downloading to a portable hard drive, just slightly shy of 5 terabytes, not gigabytes, terabytes of data. I should have that finished by tomorrow. It's actually been running for 10 or 12 hours already. And I'm going to get that over to the department. And at that point, the department will have all the resources that I created. Kind of in conjunction with that, over the years, I went to quite a few training courses in fire investigation of various types, including the state fire marshal's required minimum 5 classes. I became a member of the California Conference of Arson Investigators and the International Association of Arson Investigators, and attended seminar trainings and stuff at the Public Safety Training Academy in Sacramento and other places. With all of those things comes documentation. Each of the training programs have a binder of some sort of training material. And the long and short of it is my bookshelves are full of this stuff. And since I'm not actively doing it anymore, I thought it'd probably be beneficial to get it into the hands of members of the department who might be interested either in the training themselves or some of the science that goes into fire investigation, fire propagation, and what have you, looked at from a fire investigator's perspective rather than from a firefighter's perspective. So I have now 4 bankers boxes down the front hall, ready to take over to admin. And as one final thing, a packet of actually 2 things, packets of information that came from a ATF training that I went to on, and this is intended for first responders, firefighters, and police, on how to recognize a drug lab or an explosives lab. In some cases, they share the same characteristics, but it's important to know the difference. And in addition to the training, I stayed in touch with the ATF instructor who did that course, and I later on requested a bunch of handout material. So I've got that to bring over as well. And given the times that we're living in, I think it's a good time for first responders, firefighters, and anyone else going out on an emergency response basis to be aware of their surroundings when they walk into a scene and see things that are a little bit out of the ordinary, or maybe in some cases they don't even look out of the ordinary, but can be incredibly dangerous. So that's the second thing that was on my list. And the third thing that was on my list is I want to enter a request on my behalf, partly due to COVID and the fact that we're all doing even our meetings remotely. And then just the fact that the circumstances of the new Public Safety Center are different than old Station 51 and different than our temporary headquarters on Las Colinas. We're not getting in to say hi to the admin staff anymore. So I'd like to put in a request that we add, at least at the beginning of the next meeting, a segment where we can bring Diana and the rest of the folks that sit in the background of our meetings, really, so we can say hi and keep the connection going, because I miss seeing those folks. I liked it a lot when I was in and out of the office regularly with investigation reports or stuff having to do with the facilities, and whether it's COVID or just the change in our physical circumstances, I'm not getting my dose, and it's bothering me. So I need to see these folks. I really like them.
Larry,
That's
good
all I've
point.
got.
Chief, maybe we can introduce an employee of the month to say hello from your office, if you can distance properly.
I'm pretty sure we can work something out and connect them on the Zoom platform as well. Now,
All
there's
right.
a lot of work to do, Mr. Luckham. I don't want to take them away for too long, but we can certainly have them make star appearances and say hello and kind of wean you off of that 9-10 month window that we've been.
That would be great.
Okay.
I'm nostalgic also. I miss the stations also, visiting the firefighters at the stations.
So do I. Yeah.
That was one of the real perks of being on the fire commission, the every other month at the station. So when we can resume that, it would be great. Thank you, Larry. Tom, anything today?
Nothing to report other than yesterday I was interviewed by the Marin County Board of Supervisors. I had applied to the Assessment Appeals Board. They interviewed 3 of us and they selected me. So I was
Congratulations.
honored and humbled, and it's pretty cool. So looking forward to doing that.
So we can all get our taxes reduced.
Now we know who to talk to.
I'm gonna have to conflict myself out, Larry, sorry. But it won't interfere with this commission at all. It's completely different days and it'll be fine. So, but I was excited about that.
Neat.
So keep you posted.
Tom, is that a professional position?
It's under the state statutes and it's limited to appraisers, attorneys, or real estate agents that can serve. And there's 2 boards, 3 persons each board, and they had 1 opening. So they had 3 of us apply. The other 2 gentlemen were attorney. One was an attorney, one was an appraiser,
Mhm.
and I was fortunate to get picked. So I was pleased.
Good for you.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nadine, anything you'd like to add today?
Nothing to add today. Congratulations, Tom.
Thank you.
Nadine, how are things going for the city?
We're here.
The bills are paid.
Hey, Commissioner Mizrock, weren't we supposed to meet with Kate and the other tribal city council? Wasn't that in the works or something? The new elected members?
Say that again?
Didn't we discuss meeting with the new council members at some point?
Oh,
Or
we
having
did.
them join our meeting?
Okay.
There was a public event, I believe.
Oh,
I did leave a message with,
Either coming
new
up or it passed.
because I haven't heard about it. If there is, forward it to me, Larry. I'll take a look. If it hasn't happened.
I'm not sure I still have it, but
Huh.
I'll look.
Okay.
yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I think it's such a transition right now that we're kind of lower on the list, but at some point I would like to have a meeting with the city council rather than just the mayor, maybe everyone. And Chief, is that something that we could arrange at a higher level, or what do you think their sort of agenda, their dance card is looking like right now?
As far as an introduction to the new city council members and the new mayor,
Yes.
I'm sure they hit the ground running with a bunch of meetings and boards and new responsibilities such as the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority and others, but I don't want to make the mistake of speaking for them in their calendars. So I would certainly encourage you to reach out and see if there's something that can be done in the next several weeks, perhaps. I can imagine they'd be happy to make your acquaintance and share some things about themselves and learn about you as well.
Yeah, that would be great. We have had joint meetings with a few council members. That's been years since we've really done that, but I think it would be a neat idea, especially with all the new members.
Right. I agree.
We
And it
may
would be nice to know if, I'm
Sorry, we
sorry.
want to wait until the 5th member comes on.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a vacancy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because Kate Collins became mayor.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
District 2.
Okay.
And these are district elections now, remember?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Eli, anything you'd like to share with the Fire Commission today?
Yeah, I wanted to raise a topic and ask the question of Chief White. As I also serve on the Planning Commission, we're looking, considering right now downtown precise plan and general plan. And one of the areas in sustainability element is around adoption of electric vehicles and adoption of self-sufficiency in our homes around energy. And my consideration for firefighters and fire safety is that with increased adoption of those technologies, I know that firefighters are trained to handle lithium-ion fires and the like, but as adoption increases in vehicle fires, they're going to be more related to electrical and, Tesla power walls and, fuel cells and whatnot are going to be adopted more and more. I guess I would just want to make sure that from a safety perspective, as we're looking to the future, we think about permitting and we think about maybe designating households and vehicles around, if they have these technologies, that we're enhancing and supporting our firefighters' safety as they come into structures and approach incidents with vehicles involved. I guess my question to you is, do we feel like there are policies and procedures in place, and is there anything we can do to support making sure that as we see that shift happening in the next 5, 10, 20 years, that the department is safe in San Rafael as they approach those types of technologies.
Eli, that's a very important new dynamic for the fire service going back probably the last decade or so, as we've watched electric vehicles like Tesla emerge and become very popular and become involved in vehicle accidents, as an example. As we've watched solar panels be installed on roofs, and then you have a structure fire now, how do you actually do ventilation, topside ventilation, in a safe manner, considering the conduit and everything else related to that new construction feature? And so, ironically, some of the things we'd like to get training on right now, it's kind of been paused due to the pandemic and due to co-locating with other members or even going off-site to take training in some of these locations. Sending individuals to Tesla or Nissan or other locations where they have the vehicles and they have someone very knowledgeable about the features of the vehicle and can give instruction to firefighters. That's gained momentum over the last few years. But again, because of the pandemic, I think things have slowed quite a bit as we watch new systems be developed for the homes and the self-sufficiency and the green movement and the energy that's being generated within the house itself, as opposed to externally, the way we would go about fighting a fire, as Larry and others can tell you. We used to go and secure utilities. Well, securing utilities now is just one aspect of what needs to happen to ensure firefighter safety in a structure fire. And so our members have received training on that in the past, from what I understand. But again, due to the pandemic, some of those things have been kind of suspended temporarily. One of the goals, you won't be able to see it, but on my board, I've got training as part of a work plan for 2021 through 2023, a 2-year work plan that I'm looking to develop, and it's going to encompass quite a few things that involve both firefighter safety, but also administrative training for those company officers so they can understand how to effectively lead and supervise their personnel. So it'll be incident-based, but it'll also be some administrative-based things. And as we look to improve our safety footprint, those are just two aspects of what we need to do, which is the vehicle and the structure. But there's so many other things that are specialized responses that we need to consider. And that includes water rescue, that includes technical rescue, which encompasses confined space rescue, trench rescue, high angle and low angle rescue, and a variety of other things that we have to really wrap our minds around simultaneously. I know that sounds strange, but we can't afford to put training off for 2 years, as an example, when the reality exists that we can come across a situation anytime, any date between now and 2 years from now. So we're trying to move some of that simultaneously, knowing full well you can't move very far with everything, but to have some working knowledge on a lot is better than to have just a little bit of working knowledge or a lot of knowledge on just one thing. So I guess the old adage, a mile wide and an inch deep, or an inch deep and a mile, or excuse me, an inch wide and a mile deep, kind of is a toss-up sometimes when it comes to training. So you brought up a very valuable point. I think I know in my former organization, the kinds of trainings that we were providing to the members, again, that was kind of put on hold, I believe, as a result of the pandemic. But certainly things that we need to revisit and ensure, not just locally, but countywide, because some of these incidents, we cross jurisdictions with others, and we want to make sure that if we're working on an incident with Novato, as an example, they've had the benefit of the same training and understanding that we have coming from San Rafael or Marinwood, and we all are working in concert with one another with similar terminology and similar understanding, so that the operation is not putting someone in a perilous situation, for example, because one agency knows something the other doesn't. So that training should really expand beyond just a local agency to become potentially a countywide. And so one of the things that I, as the Marin County Fire Chiefs Association, we have liaisons to the ops section and to the training staff. And so questions about what they're going to be proposing for future training, that'll certainly be one of the topics I'm sure they cover. And if they don't, I'll be sure to ask about it and make sure it's on their radar. There's so many other things, just as Larry shared a moment ago, the world we live in right now, we're starting to see, a little bit more in the way of civil unrest and civil demonstration. And that leads to our members needing to know how to protect themselves and how to respond effectively with law enforcement and EMS. So there's so many things we have to look at now that it goes well above and beyond just a simple structure or vehicle fire. But all of these things are equally important.
Absolutely. No, thank you for your comments. And I'm hearing loud and clear the need to make sure that the training is comprehensive and not one-dimensional in just that one area. There's a lot of things. And I guess the other dimension that I was thinking of too is that if we see adoption of these technologies ramp up and hit critical mass very, very quickly, as I expect it will, given administration priorities coming in the next 4 years. I just don't want, I can envision a scenario where in the rush for adoption, that we end up I don't want to look back from the future and say there were small things we could have done around code enforcement, around just ways that say home self-sufficiency for electricity led to potential safety issues that we're going to have to retrofit. So I think training is certainly a dimension, but I'm thinking that there are kind of, if you will, low-hanging fruit, low cost, high value opportunities to even consider code changes now, so that the way that these systems are installed provide safety, not just for the residents, but for our first responders.
That's a very important aspect of what needs to happen to account for not only the residents' safety, but also firefighter safety as well when they're designing and installing these features. And so I believe, I can't quote specifically which portions of the code, but I believe some of this has already gotten some traction. I'd have to work with Chief Senate on what is still yet to have been developed or enacted at this point, but he's probably got a far better grasp on this than I do because that's his area of expertise. So I would certainly want to reach out to him and include him in this conversation.
Yeah, if it's all the same, I'd love to reach out and be involved to at least start that discussion. And I think folks know here I serve in the other capacity in planning, so I'd love to make sure I'm helping the department to think a couple moves ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Stan, you had a question?
Well, a comment. While the chief was speaking, of course, now I've lost it. I took my phone and I Googled Tesla fire. A number of links. One of them, of course, is Tesla's. First responder information. Everything you'd like to know about Model S, Model X, Model 3, Model Y, the Roadster, superchargers, material safety, EV safety and training, solar roof, and energy storage. They all have multiple links on the Tesla site as to data available as to how to approach the problem.
That's huge to know. It's very user-friendly for us to be able to utilize during the pandemic, obviously, when we don't necessarily have in-person training. I think one of the advantages, I'm sorry, my boss is calling. Can I pause just for one?
One more thing I'll throw in. Some time ago, we were talking about the idea, within the text of the commission, we were talking about the idea of the blue reflector marker that could be on the mailbox or in front of a property or on the side of the curb, someplace outside of the residence that has either a hot tub with 500 gallons or more, or a swimming pool of any size, notifying the fire department as they would drive to the scene of an incident in the area, that there was static water available at those locations if they needed to tap it. You might want to add the thought down the road that a logo of some kind that says this property is the user of solar, has an electric car, or some kind of visual quick reference. I mean, I have a Tesla. I have 20 panels on my roof. I have no indication outside the house that any of that is here. So on the other hand, I will say, just from a private position, do I want to advertise that?
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Food
Yeah,
for thought.
I'll share. And thank you for that, Stan. I think just for disclosure, I did read a pretty long academic article about different methods of fire suppression for just different types of lithium ion. There's so many different kinds. And then to your point, There's also Lucid, and every other car manufacturer is moving towards it, and each one is going to look different.
Yeah.
And so, at any rate, I know that this is coming. I know it's just one dimension, but I think it's something that I think we're going to see a more massive adoption in the next several years.
Let me piggyback on that, Chairman, real quick.
Go
Chief
ahead, Tom.
White, is the department looking at electric fire trucks or electric vehicles in the future, transitioning to EV?
I think that's certainly something that has value, but I think it's still a relatively unproven technology at this point. From what I understand, going back a year ago or so, Menlo Park, as an example, had taken a good look at one of the electrical fire apparatus. It was priced somewhere close to either $3 or $5 million. Oh yeah, and so that right away kind of puts it off our radar until the price becomes a bit more competitive with our diesel engine counterparts. But that being said, I certainly think there's a value to that when they can bring the price down to be affordable, much like they've done with the electrical vehicles that are on the streets and highways. But for right now, the cost is very prohibitive. Unless there's some grant funding that really covers 80% or something like that, I don't think that it's really something we really want to put a lot of time and energy into just yet.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Dave, anything you'd like to share with the Fire Commission?
Sure. I just add to that too, the reliability factor too, is it's somewhat of an unproven technology for larger vehicles and electric vehicles. Okay, well, first off, apologies that I had a hard time logging into this one, and sorry for my alter ego. I guess I'm Tom's counterpart today, but I had a couple of updates because I was able to connect with David Catalano last week, and we picked up on the conversation that we were having last year around how can we use social media and communicate with the community. So we talked about a variety of different things, but there are really two that I think we're going to focus on in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
One is creating, for lack of a better term, an editorial calendar of content that we can distribute across the various social platforms. So it's Twitter, it's Nextdoor, and others. And what are some of the messages and themes that we might want to consider as a part of that? And so some can be very closely tied to seasonal issues or themes. For example, we talked about before the holidays, there's so many things related to safety around the holidays and everything from Christmas lights to Christmas trees, et cetera. So there's a lot of content out there that's available that can be just very easily repurposed. We don't need to create new content, so that's great. But just having a set calendar where we know exactly what date we're going to do these things. Same thing for, say, for example, 4th of July and fireworks safety. And maybe in the fall, we do something for wildfire safety as well. And then also we thought about, as a part of this calendar, that there probably are some things that we can do between those seasonal events. So just ongoing reminders about things like checking the batteries in your smoke detectors, things like oily rags. I understand that we had an incident very recently where a fire was started for that reason. So we might be able to use examples like that to just bring it to life for people. So that's one thing that we're going to work on. We have another call scheduled for next week. So I'm hoping that we'll get this editorial calendar set up, I would say, before the next time that we all meet.
That's great. I'm glad. I was just going to say, I'm glad to hear you and David had a chance to finally connect. I know you had some things you wanted to share before the Christmas holiday. Were you guys able to get some of that messaging finalized and placed?
Yeah, we were, and we went through a pretty big list and just decided there were a couple of things that would focus on first. So that was the first one. The second one was related to just an observation that I've had regarding Twitter in general and the way that we've been using it, as well as other platforms. It seems to me that there used to be a bit more activity regarding incident response, which is something that we might want to talk about. Is that of value to the community? And are there some either guidelines or trainings for battalion chiefs or others? I think they were the ones typically who would do that and post something, being on the scene. So that's one thing to think about is using Twitter for that. And if there's any type of process or guidelines that we might want to build around that. And then also for just other community information, for example, if there are red flag warnings or public safety power shutoffs, PG&E is tweeting those a lot too. Maybe it's just retweeting or reposting some of the things that they're doing. So these are a few other things that we're thinking about. We can also just remind people of things like Alert Marin, that you should be signing up for that. So we'll work on that, and hopefully I'll have a little bit more to report on at our next meeting.
That's fantastic. It sounds very interesting and sounds like you've really thought about it a lot. So thank you for doing that, Dave. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that. I do have one concern. When you speak about the instant posting of tweets, or at least close to real time as possible, and I'm not a tweeter, I've never tweeted, so maybe this is far more simpler than I can imagine. But given the fact that we run with 3 members on an apparatus, and you have an incident commander on scene who's probably kind of inundated, I'm not sure how as close to real time that we can get, unless there's a lull in the activity somehow, or we're into the overhaul portion of the incident, for example, on a structure fire. Maybe that's the time where information can be shared. Are you looking for continuous updates, or just information that something just occurred and you're sharing information about the fact that something just occurred?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Safety comes first, and getting the job done, that's the #1 priority. I think it was more of an observation that there used to be a bit more reporting on incidents, and yeah, it can just be one tweet after the incident. And I know in the past, sometimes they've used some of the wonderful photography that Larry has provided. And it's a conversation that we can have if that's something that we'd want to make available to the community. And if it's something that is reasonable to ask, and it doesn't necessarily have to be hard and fast that it must be done for every single incident, but if there is downtime after the emergency is.
Yeah, I certainly don't see it being a problem once the incident's been kind of resolved and folks are back at quarters and maybe have a chance to rehab for a few moments and then say, okay, now I'm gonna put out a message to the community. I see no problem with that.
Historically, on major incidents, the IJ has been on scene pretty reliably, and in the past, as many of you already know, once I got back from an incident, I always dumped, assuming that I wasn't doing an investigation also, I would immediately dump all the raw photos and what have you up on the Photo 50 website. I did that without any editing or selection or what have you. There'd be cases where something was out of focus or I took a picture of my foot. And then followed that up almost immediately by sending a link to the incident photos to multiple mailing lists, one that included fire commissioners, city council members, all of the firefighters got updates, and the local media. The IJ got it, the patch got it, etc. And the IJ rarely used any of my material because they usually had somebody of their own. But the patch used to use it pretty regularly, and occasionally the TV stations would pick up something. So some of that kind of already was happening. I don't know because I haven't been going on calls now for a year and a half or so. But that's just the way it used to work.
Okay, no, it's helpful to know. I appreciate that. Only question I would have also when we talk about releasing photographs is what sort of screening process or filter are we using to determine what should be going out to the public versus what should not? And so I certainly want to make sure our members and our chief officers understand, where they don't want to cross the line.
Right. Right. And I was always very circumspect with regard to what got posted, and if there was any if victims ended up being involved in any of the photos that I took, those did get pulled. None of the investigation stuff ever got posted where it could be seen publicly. So that is something that whoever's doing it definitely needs to be cognizant of.
Right.
Okay, very good. Stan, is there anything you would like to share with the Fire Commission today?
No, not today. Thank you. All's well.
Do you want to tell us about the letter you sent on our behalf?
As you all read, we created a congratulatory letter to the new mayor, and it drafted some other copy, which I believe is in the works for some certificates yet to come out. Happy to do it, and I think we need to, as a group, keep our eyes open for those kinds of opportunities. And I certainly am happy to draft material, and I'm sure other people would be as well, but that I feel that that's one of our arms of communication as a group, back into the larger San Rafael pool.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before I turn it over to the chief, I'll just say that on the topic of a meeting and greeting with the mayor and city council, it could just be to do that, to meet and greet, say hello, see ourselves on Zoom and such. But if people have specific issues they would like to raise or discuss with the city council, with the mayor, just send me an email about the kind of things you would like to talk about in that format. Things that you think you'd like to know from them, or things that they may want to know for us, or whatever it be. It could certainly just be a meet and greet, but if you want to have it be more substantive and you have specific issues, just shoot me an email and I'll put that in the file for things we can talk about. Okay? That's just an open request if you have something. Chief White, your report.
Absolutely. Well, it's not a very large report. The month of December was somewhat uneventful. We had one of the structure fires that was just referred to that occurred, but I'll cover that a little bit later in the report. But I'm going to start with the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. I have to say that part of my report does not speak to what I'm sharing right now, which is the NCCC and AmeriCorps crews actually returned back to their original home locations about mid-December. Unfortunately, there was a case of suspected COVID, and so because of that, a decision was made to ensure that individual was quarantined, and then the rest of the crew ended up going back to their places of origin. And so with that, the decision was made to, given the weather and given the fact that we could not really accommodate and shelter those individuals for the duration of their quarantine over the holiday period, they just returned back to their original locations. And so with that, we're going to be looking to bring them back perhaps sometime in March or April. Quinn's got an excellent rapport with them. We received some letters of appreciation for the mentoring and the relationships that they actually have developed with some of the staff here already. Some of our new staff are some of our vegetation management specialists, as an example, along with Quinn and others. So we're really looking forward to their return. As you know, they provide a phenomenal service for a minimal price, far more competitive than, say, the California Conservation Corps and other agencies that have far higher price points for the work that they provide. But with that, the weather is always a consideration, but from what I understand, going back to one of the briefings we had several weeks ago, they're not really anticipating a lot of rain this winter. So with that, I'm a big proponent of using those crews as long as we possibly can. If we could go 10, 11 months out of 12, I'm all for it, because I know the value of the work that they do, and it actually helps the homeowners in a way that the resource assistance they provide would not be otherwise available unless there were some grants, which we haven't opened up the grant access yet to community members who could benefit from it. The MWPA has put up the year-to-date account or the year-ending accomplishments for 2020, the things that have been done in the way of the various programs and projects that were supported for the first several months of the MWPA. And again, it's just a reminder that a lot of the work that was done was based on shovel-ready projects that we thought would be able to get a lot of visibility, but not the higher, heavier lift, long-term, time-consuming major RFP, RFQ processes that cross and span multiple zones. And so fortunately, we were able to get a lot done. I think you'll see that if you go to the website, it's listed in as https://www.marinwildfire.org/programs. So it's an opportunity to take a look at what's been happening throughout the county, and specifically here in San Rafael as well. Executive Director Brown has been working to bring forward the group known as Zone Haven for approval, and what they do is large. I introduced Zone Haven to the Marin County Fire Chiefs Association when I first arrived. Unfortunately, there was so much going on, that concept just didn't really get a lot of momentum early on. But a few months later, when evacuations became a very serious priority and we got kind of settled with the MWPA and some of the projects we knew we needed to get traction on moving forward, we finally had a presentation made to them in October. And I think I mentioned this to the group already. That presentation, I think, was well received. Zone Haven is a company that provides a tool that not any other company is producing right now in the way of real-time situational awareness for escape routes and routes of travel during an emergency. And so Zone Haven's working right now with multiple agencies and multiple counties in our region. And we're one of the last counties to kind of get on board with Zone Haven, provided we actually do finalize a relationship with them, which I'm assuming we probably will. They've worked closely with recently San Mateo County as an example, Santa Cruz and Santa Clara County, Sonoma County, they're working with Contra Costa County, Alameda County, they're rolling out a product pretty soon over in Alameda County at a far greater expense than what we'll face here, because their price point is based on population served as opposed to a flat rate. And so here, our population numbers are a little bit lower in Marin County, so that's going to speak to favorable pricing. We just got notice that this week sometime we're going to receive the first tranche of funding that is coming back from the monies received for the tax revenue. 55% roughly of what we anticipate for our two pots of local and D-space funding are going to come in roughly to the tune of roughly around just over $1 million. 40% is going to come sometime in April and the last 5% in June. So the funding is on its way, and that's huge. It's actually a welcome, obviously to the city coffers and our ability to cover expenses and losses as well. So that being said, there is a effort also underway here in the near future, and we're going to meet next week regarding the 2021 work plan. And again, I think that focus is going to shift to some degree on including now the core projects and the core funding, which is the heavier lift that I spoke of earlier. So a lot on the horizon, a lot I'll be reporting out over the next few months regarding the work plan and some of the things that are moving forward regarding the grand jury's report on the roadblocks to evacuations in Marin, and how our efforts in the MWPA will segue into the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, as well as our local wildfire prevention and protective action plan, and how the MWPA funding and that study and those resources will all segue into, I think, what we ultimately envisioned here, which is a far safer community. So, and again, we've got this funding for 10 years. So there's going to be a lot of work that we're going to be able to accomplish over the next several years. And I'm looking forward to seeing that progress. COVID, I'm going to jump into COVID right now. I'll try to keep it a little bit shorter than I did in MWPA. About the third week in December or so, we started providing assistance to the effort of providing points of distribution or dispersion for the COVID vaccine. We started with the skilled nursing facility and some of the other long-term care facility staff. And then immediately after that, we were provided with the opportunity to provide our first responders in the county with their first inoculation, if you will. I guess, is that the proper term, doctor? Inoculation, when you are giving a vaccine?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good.
Our first inoculation, I received mine almost 3 weeks ago. Tomorrow I'm due to receive the second. And what we're actually seeing is somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 80% of everyone who's working as a first responder has taken the vaccination thus far. And so that's really helpful. It's not 100%. That's what I'd actually like to see. I think there's going to be some questions moving forward on how we can address that legally, if at all, so that everyone who's serving in a capacity of a public servant and is serving the public is as safe as possible, not a source of exposure to the public potentially. So again, legal minds will be wrangling with that one. I'm not really, I like to debate, but I won't be able to debate that one quite as well as they will. So that being said, this week we've started on those second vaccinations, the second round of them. I understand CVS, Walgreens, and other pharmacies will contract with the state and or federal government to also supplement the effort to start pushing vaccine to the tune of roughly 40 million vaccinations in a 3-phased approach. And so that will probably be combined, from what I understand, with the use of the military, retirees, DMAT teams, and others that will all come together to work to help support the president's lofty goal of 100 million people in the first 100 days of his presidency. And so to me, that means there'll be around the clock vaccinations, at all hospitals, at all pharmacies, wherever you can get an appointment in. You know what? It's going to require that kind of a lift to see 1 million a day done. I don't think we even did testing of 1 million people a day at the height of the pandemic. So to be able to do that many vaccinations, if we fall short, we fall short, but shoot for the stars, I think. And that's the right approach. Try to get as much as you possibly can get done. Let's see. No, I'm not going to report the number of deaths. We all know those numbers are substantial, approaching 400,000. And the cases in Marin County are far better than in other parts of the state, but still elevated and continuing to increase to some degree. But we're hopeful and optimistic over the next several weeks as more vaccinations start to occur, as the continued shelter-in-place order is enacted, that we'll start to see these numbers reverse trend and go in the opposite direction. Emergency incidents. We spoke earlier about the oily rag situation that ignited a fire in Marinwood, right outside of someone's property near their garage. What I understand, the individual that was responsible for that had been doing some sort of maintenance work on their vehicle or some equipment outdoors, and they tossed those rags, not knowing the proper way to dispose of those rags, without watching or seeing somehow or another that off-gassing continue and that auto ignition or self-ignition take place. And so when you put them in an enclosed area like a garbage can, you're asking for trouble. And I made the mistake years ago when I was a new firefighter. I used a garbage can to ignite a fire using gasoline, and threw the match and almost singed all my hair and all of my eyebrows. I promise you I didn't lose my hair from that incident, but it was such an explosive event. It caught me off guard. I thought I lost some of my hearing for a little while after it. That is one of the worst things you could possibly do, which is pour gasoline onto a fuel in a cylinder and light that cylinder off.
Paper explosion.
Yes, it was a lesson learned, but fortunately it wasn't a lesson learned with some injury behind it. And I've seen that happen over and over again. I watched a video recently where somebody did something similar at a demonstration, at a public demonstration with the fire chief and other city leaders in Europe. And this person actually lit it and ultimately got themselves on fire, and then got the fire chief on fire. So it went sideways quickly. So you just never know. Leave it to the experts who are trained and understand what they're doing. The second incident that we had was involving a vehicle accident that, again, in Marinwood area, involved 6 occupants in the vehicle, and that's not part of this report, but the 6 occupants in the vehicle were minors. And when you looked at that vehicle, you thought there'd be no survivors. Somehow or another, those 6 people were, you know, God was blessing them, divine intervention took place, and they didn't have any severe injuries, but 3 were transported by, I think it was Medic 57 to Marin Health. But last but not least, I think I mentioned in my our last meeting that you guys directly funded something that's really helped the crews. And I saw it firsthand at Station 52. And then I had a report that was shared with me in the photograph here of the CMC Mule 2 litter wheel and Stokes basket. I'm not sure if you can see this real easily, but it's a device that actually is utilized on some of our trails when we have an injured individual in some uneven terrain or in a remote location where just carrying that individual out by gurney or backboard is just a really labor intensive situation. But thanks to your funding, the Fire Foundation was able to provide some support with this purchase. And as you can see, the individuals here are walking from a high hillside with a patient in tow. And it's a very durable device, but it's also very flexible in that it's only one wheel and it's got some good terrain features on that wheel. Very ingenious design. I got to give credit to whoever made this, because I can think of one of those situations where we had a medic where at my former agency, we were deep in the trails and the roughly half a mile away from where we would take the patient to the ambulance that was waiting. And the AMR guy that showed up just touched the Stokes basket and said, "Oh, my back." He hadn't even lifted it, hadn't even grasped it. He just wanted out. He saw this big kid that was like 270 pounds who had fell and broke his leg on the bike. And he was like, "I'm not doing this." So he just feigned like he had, hurt his back already. And so that left the other 3 of us trying to help manage this individual going up. And we had to go up to get to where we were going. And so I had some frustration that day. I was a little stronger back then, so I didn't mind it as much, but I just didn't like the cop out, if you will. But this device, if we had it, that would have been huge. So I say this knowing full well, this thing is going to get a lot of use. I mean, this past summer, we had a lot of down bicyclists. I'm sure there'll be some use for this with joggers, with bicyclists, with horseback riders, you name it, any number of recreational users. So thank you guys for supporting this, and we certainly thank the Fire Foundation as well. And that will conclude my report after I mention the new recruit, Cole Roth, who just started the Recruit Academy last Thursday. Cole comes to us from, he actually was from here in Marin and went to Sir Francis Drake High School, later moved to Ukiah, but has been pursuing his dream of becoming a firefighter in San Rafael for quite some time. And he's been around at different locations. I actually had a job and was in their academy in El Dorado County Fire District. And it made it clear to us during the interview process that despite his position there, he wanted to be here. So Cole was the last individual on our list, and he last but certainly welcome here. And we're looking forward to Cole's success. Captain Nick Giusti and a Captain Lappert from Central Marin Fire Department are working together to provide training to Cole and another individual, I believe it's John Pomilia, who's working now with Central Marin as a new recruit. So the Academy is going to run for the next 6 weeks, and we're looking forward to bringing him onto the fire department family and watching him grow and excel in his career. He's going to get a lot of repetition. There's only 2 individuals in this academy. I've never seen a 2-individual academy. We whittled them down to like 4 in my former agency. They only started with 9 and they just kept falling off until you were down to 4. And that was like the lowest I had seen. Now to see 2 start, I'm certainly hope 2 finish. So
it's hard to hide when there are only 2 of you.
You're going to be spent too. But somebody joked and said, "You know what? You should be teaching me at the end of this academy. You should get so much reps and get so much muscle memory here." So we'll see.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Chief. That's great.
Absolutely.
Anything from anyone else? Any comments or thoughts or questions or whatever?
I just had one really quick question. I'm sorry, I know we're getting close to running over here. But just given the heightened level of alert about events happening in the next couple of weeks, are there any things, Chief, that you think we need to be prepared for or have already prepared for in San Rafael? And I'm referring specifically to some of the protests that we've all been reading about in the newspapers, and hopefully those protests don't turn into riots again. I know they're focusing on state capitals, but you never know the way these things happen sometimes.
No, you're absolutely right. We had initial conversations, Quinn, myself, and Chief Senate about whether or not we needed to stand up the EOC as a partial activation and take some other steps like developing a tactical action plan or an incident action plan. There was a call received earlier from one of the other fire chiefs in the county who says, this is ominously quiet right now. I'm worried that something may be, coming. And I said, well, we all felt that way 4 years ago, and we were developing incident action plans and tactical action plans, and fortunately didn't really need to implement any of them. I understand this situation is a lot more volatile than 4 years ago. But so far, we haven't heard anything from our law enforcement partners that there's any intelligence that indicates we have some concerns here in Marin. So until we have those concerns elevated to us, we'll quickly dust off and update those incident action plans that we had in place just recently for some of the other things we were concerned about over the summer and moving into the fall. But given this, so far so good in the way of no intelligence shared with us that indicates there could be a problem. Now, that being said, I did hear a radar report maybe about a day or so after the event that happened in the Capitol, where someone was threatening that there was going to be a widespread number of individuals who were going to descend down on the Capitol over the course of the day or two before the actual inauguration and create some issues in the tunes of hundreds of thousands of people that were going to be there and disruptive. And they actually made a challenge to the police. They said, hey, we're not here to create any issues with law enforcement, but that's up to them. And that's, that doesn't really bode well when you think about, if that really is going to happen, we could be looking at a situation that's really something we've never faced in this country, except unless there's a civil war or something else going on. So I certainly hope that's not the case. I hope that this individual that tweeted out that statement, I hope they've already found, detained, and then infiltrated that whole situation there to try to do everything they can in their power to disrupt it before it gets momentum. But, again, that almost speaks to what we might consider some Gestapo-like activities and behaviors. How do you stop something that hasn't happened without now trying to become someone who's infringing on the privacy and the rights of individuals? So until they create or do something, do you really intercede? I don't know. Do you detain? Maybe that's a tactic they can use that's legal. I'm not really sure. I'm not, again, the legal expert. I think about some of those things that could surface as a problem. But so far, so good.
God bless the FBI. Okay, everyone, wear your mask, stay safe until you get the vaccine, and we'll see you next month. Thank you so much for participating.
Sounds
Take
good.
care, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry. One quick question. Any idea on how I can get this frame to Mr. Devlin? I can find out on Friday, but if somebody knows or lives near him or sees him more frequently, I want to make sure he gets it sooner than later.
I do see Jack, so I can pick it up and deliver it to him. Be
Okay.
happy to.
And last thing I just want to share with you guys, I got a call from a division chief, retired division chief, Wolford, and he found something that he had possession of, and he wants to bring it. I'm going to call him when we get off the line. That is a old certificate that I guess he's had in his possession that moved the fire department from its volunteer status into paid status. And I wondered what that looked like. And he says he's had it for a long time.
Yeah.
He'd like to share it with us and then perhaps, put it on my wall here. And I told him, absolutely. I love nostalgic things. And I certainly love things that are historical in that manner. And we'd love to have it here. So.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I just want to let you guys know. All right. That's it.
Wonderful.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.